Hi guys, it's Mark from Burton Bibles here. I hope you're well. I am just bringing you a little video on a couple of Bibles that I've had come into me very recently that I'm particularly excited about. These are new to me anyway, and I am familiar a little bit with the translation and the name of the person behind these Bibles, but I was watching a video by Pastor Brian, which is the Bible Review Central channel with Pastor Brian. Pastor Brian, a good friend of mine now, and check his channel out if you've not had chance to drop by it yet. Really will get some good Bible-based content on there. I was watching one of his videos and he put me on to these Bibles, and I've managed to get hold of a couple because they are produced here in the UK, they are published here in the UK, and I thought I would share them with you. It is these two that we're going to be looking at today. These two are Darby translations, so this is the new translation from J.N. Darby, and who was a 19th century Christian here in the UK, and I have to say I am very, very impressed with what we have here, and I'm excited to share it with you. So let's take them to the desk and get a proper... Okay then guys, let's take a closer look at these two Darby translation Bibles. These will be going onto the Burton Bibles website. This is just the sort of Bible that I want to feature on my website. Beautifully produced, as we'll get to in a moment, and really interesting Bible that I think is not well enough known about, that I can help get into the marketplace and introduce to people who perhaps weren't overly familiar with these Bibles. So let's take a look at them. They're both quoted as being bound in a genuine leather, and we'll have a closer look at that now. You will notice that the grain is really nice, a really tight, small grain. Both of these Bibles are have a paste-down liner that we'll have a quick look at there. So there's no edge-lined or leather lining going on here. So that's just something to be aware of. In terms of the two sizes, there is a smaller size available, but I fear that the smaller size will be kind of ruby-esque in its size, and I think the font will be quite a bit smaller, so I'm not as keen on getting that one in, but these two sizes certainly are very attractive. We'll start with perhaps looking at my favourite, which is this smaller size. It is less than hand-sized, and if I bring in some Bibles for comparison, this is the Cambridge Cameo. So you'll notice that this has a smaller footprint than a Cambridge Cameo, which is in itself a very compact and slim Bible. Let's compare it to a Pitt Minion. You will notice that it has a similar size footprint to the Pitt. Obviously the Pitt is a little bit slimmer, but let's just have a look at something that's interesting here. The grain on these two is very similar, if not identical. Now this Pitt Minion is bound in goatskin with a paste-down liner, and I have a suspicious feeling that this also is goatskin with a paste-down liner. So that's just something to bear in mind there, that these two Bibles share quite a bit in terms of their production. The other thing that we will notice as we look into this Bible is that this Bible is printed in the Netherlands at Royal Jongbloed. So Jongbloed are responsible for the fantastic production on this Bible, as too is the production on the Cambridge Pitt Minion. So this really is stellar production heritage that they share with premium Cambridges and other Bibles, of course, that are also produced by Jongbloed, such as the 2-version Bible that I retail from Crim & House, and some high-end R.L. Allens are done by Royal Jongbloed, and many others, I am sure. So that's just an interesting point to note. As we look at this Bible, you will also see that it's very flexible. It has a beautiful flex to it, at least as flexible as the Pitt Minion, and it's also got this beautiful art-gilt page edges, some of the finest work that I've seen, if I'm being honest. The Cambridges have excellent art gilting as well, but this is really, really very, very nice. This reminds me of the turquoise art gilding, which is beautiful, beautiful production. So that's just something to be aware of with these Darby Bibles. Now, as we look into it, we'll see that we've just got a few card pieces, and then it will say there that it is the Holy Scriptures, a new translation from the original languages. There is an introductory notice to the 1961 edition, which is the edition that this draws from. And Darby basically was a scholar. He was an Anglican priest in the 1800s. He was born in that Regency period over in Ireland, and he basically fell out of love, disenfranchised with the Anglican Church, the institutionalised church. He resigned as a priest, and he basically came out of institutional Christianity and started something different. He got back to New Testament principles, and he started what we now know, I guess, in general terms as the Brethren movement. And he was concerned that everybody should understand and know the Scriptures, so he set his scholarly mind to look at the original Greek and the original Hebrew. He mainly concentrated on the New Testament, so he looked at those Greek Bibles and Greek New Testaments and really dug into the meaning of those words, and he produced what we now know as this translation, the New Translation. It came out, I think, just a bit before the Revised Version, and in fact, the Revised Version translators actually referred to Darby's translation and Darby's extensive notes. These are abridged notes, but the original Darby translations had a lot more notes in them than this, which would explain why he came to the conclusion he did on various words and on various rendering and translation choices. So that was very, very interesting. Now, just getting back to this Bible, it is a beautiful, beautiful print. I'm sure you will agree. As we flip over to the book of Genesis, just look what we have here. We'll just set this on the desk and go to that. It's a dual column format. It's not verse by verse per se, it's more paragraph style, but you'll notice that in the centre and to the left-hand side of the columns, we've got these really clear sort of standoff verse numbers, which I really, really like. At the bottom is a small space for the abridged Darby translation notes, which are very interesting indeed. And as we turn the page, you'll notice that there are actually page numbers at the top. And the format proceeds throughout the Bible. And you'll notice that it is a very dark, a very bold font. I would suggest that the font size here is about an 8-point font. It's actually very similar. If we look into the Cameo, it's actually quite similar in size, but a little bit bolder font than the Cameo. And the Cameo is an 8-point font. So that's a little text comparison there. So if you find the Cameo easy to read from, you will certainly find it easy to read from this Darby translation. And this is an even more compact Bible than the Cameo. So it's obviously doing a lot with the small footprint that it has. So those translation notes at the bottom are there for you to refer to. And it's not a red letter, which some people will be pleased about who don't like red letters. And it's a very satisfying edition to read from. I've been really enjoying it. It's a fantastic Bible to hold, a fantastic Bible to read, and these translation notes are really, really interesting. This is a great study Bible. This would be like a second Bible or a study Bible that you keep and refer to. You perhaps wouldn't use the Darby translation as your day-to-day Bible or as your go-to or everyday carry Bible, but I really do like the size of this edition. It's very nice. It's phenomenally produced. It's fantastic quality throughout. There are signatures that are on show throughout it, which just show how well this Bible has been put together. In the back, there isn't much really to speak of. There are only just a few maps, which are basically taken from Darby's original French and German Bibles, I believe. So they do have some interest and value in themselves. They are quite plain. There's not much colour on them, but obviously it has a very traditional and time-honoured feel to it. In the Psalms and in the prophetic, poetic sections, you'll find that the format doesn't particularly change. It does take on a slight offsetting for poetic verses, but not too dissimilar from the rest of the scriptures. So it's beautiful. It's really nice, and I really do like this edition. The larger Darby that we have here is just even more gorgeous to look at and to read. We have these phenomenal, beautiful art-gilt page edges again on display here. And if we look at the footprint of these Bibles, you'll see that they are indeed a much bigger volume. But this is even more bold, even more crisp to read. It reminds me very much of the turquoise. It's that level of boldness, that level of font size, I would suggest. If I compare it, for example, to the Cambridge large print, you'll notice that they're very similar. So this is definitely something in the order of a 10-point font here at play in the Darby. It is also a fairly similar footprint to the large print Cambridge, although it is a little bit taller. So it is perhaps similar to the turquoise in dimensions as well. But as you can see, the opacity of the paper is fantastic. The larger volume has two ribbons and some very attractive red and yellow headbands. The smaller edition just makes do with the one black ribbon and the white head and tail bands there. So if you have an interest in early sort of 19th century derivatives of the King James Version Bible, for example the Darby, the Revised Version, things like that, then I'm sure you'll find this very interesting. It's fantastic to have on the shelf as an option for you. It is a beautiful Bible if you like to add it to your collection, and it also adds so much, particularly in the New Testament, in terms of alternative renderings, alternative translations that Darby researched and dug into in those in the 19th century there. Still has value, I think, today. So the best thing about these Bibles is the price. They are very, very reasonable, and this one, the smaller version, will be retailing for somewhere around £38-39, and this one, the large one, which is again produced by Jongbloed and bound in what I think is a goatskin with a vinyl paste down liner. There we go. On the most beautiful paper, very similar to a turquoise. This one will retail for somewhere around £65-68. So really fantastic value. And so it will offer people who perhaps prefer the King James Version just that little, those little changes that Darby made in the 19th century, just as a sort of parallel, if you like, to the Revised Version, just to look at some alternative renderings that are still, highly regarded and well known today, and still quoted in many circles. So I hope that's of benefit to you to look at these two Bibles. Do check them out. I'll be putting some nice images on our Instagram feed, and I'll be putting the details of these Bibles up on the website in the next day or two. So I hope you do check it out and give us some feedback on these. So thanks for your time again. I hope you found that beneficial. Take care, God bless, and we'll catch up on another video soon. Bye-bye.